Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, I hope that you are all having a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are out there in the world. So at this point in time, as we really look at the SEC, they have become one of the biggest laughing stocks in the crypto market and hopefully outside of the crypto market as well. But I feel as though the SEC is not having any accountability tied to its name at all. Why? Well, because guess what? Nobody's doing anything. We continue to hear all of these major stories about how Gary Gensler and the SEC are failing and they're doing this and they're doing that. Yet guess what? Nothing is happening. Nobody's doing anything. It's comical. There was a post by the CLO, the Chief Legal Officer at Ripple, and basically what happened was the federal court sanctioned the SEC for abusing its unique status to present evidence that was false, mischaracterized, and or misleading. If anyone thinks this conduct by this agency under this leadership is limited to this case, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell. Now here's the full breakdown. Over here is where it got highlighted on what was actually specifically said and stated. It expressly traded on its special standing as a federal agency, reminding the court it had been granted this relief several times in the past 10 years to demonstrate it could be trusted when asking for this tremendous exercise of judicial authority. Each piece of support the commission offered in seeking the temporary restraining order and then later reiterated in defending the temporary restraining order proved to be some combination of false, mischaracterized, and also misleading. So as we really look at this, right, like we're now seeing the proof out there that the SEC is abusing its power, it's abusing its position, and it continues to be a complete joke of an agency. But the problem is that guess what? From here on out, nothing will happen. Nothing's going to happen because the entire system is corrupt. It's broken. The SEC is working for the same people that Elizabeth Warren and all these big players are working for, which is the bankers. If there was any sort of accountability, the SEC would have been done for 3 years ago, or a little bit even over 3 years ago, when it caused $15 billion worth of damages to retail investors. And also, let me remind you that this is not a Gary Gensler problem. Look at some of the information that has come out from the SEC regarding Bill Hinman, Jay Clayton. I mean, come on. A Gary Gensler problem? No, this is an SEC problem. But guess what? This is a small fish on the much larger food chain. Because all the way to the top, it's all the same issues. It's corruption. It's abuse of power. It's happening everywhere. It's not just the SEC. But the reason why I bring this back up is because we continue to see these congressional members act like they're doing anything. We have from Tom Emmer. He says no, because the SEC is requesting an extra $158 million from the federal budget to police crypto's Wild West. And we have from the Financial Services GOP, this is the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services, this is Republicans. We have on the same day, SEC enforcement attorneys were sanctioned by a judge for abuse of power and misleading the court. Chair Gensler requested a huge increase in funding. Even worse, they are claiming the commission is deficit neutral despite a $50 million shortfall last year. Again, what's happening? Oh yeah, that's right, nothing. This will probably be granted, they'll probably get the funding, and they'll continue to attack crypto. Also over here, we have Gary Gensler's SEC continues its losing streak in the courts. A judge has ruled against the SEC in the debt box case, imposing sanctions on the commission for acting in bad faith. This is one of the most alarming examples yet of Gensler's abuse of power, but it's also the SEC's problem. Guys, it's not just, hey, let's fire Gary Gensler, let's get rid of Gary Gensler. No, we need to get rid of the SEC. The SEC as an agency has failed completely. They continue to harm investors. They're not protecting anyone besides the bankers. I've talked about this many times over. But also, we have from Patrick McHenry, Again, a congressional member that has done absolutely nothing but scold Gary Gensler like he's a child. Chair Gensler's enforcement team's egregious misconduct will have broad implications on SEC authority beyond his crypto crusade. Gensler requested more funding for enforcement last year. Now a judge calls out the SEC's abusive and deceptive legal practices. This must end. And what's comical about this, right, is I put out a post saying, this must end, quoting him. And I said, but definitely not by the hands of congressional members that sit and drag their feet pretending like they're doing anything. We have been hearing about Gary Gensler and the SEC's failures for over 3 years now, yet nothing is being done. How many retail investors need to be hurt by the actions of a U.S. government agency before anything is actually done? And again, like, as we really look at this, right, like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Oh, are they going to put out a letter? Or are they going to bring Gary Gensler in and ask him questions for him to avoid just while they scold him and say, hey, you're a terrible chairman, but we're going to keep letting you do your job. Now, I know that they can't fire him, but listen, there's a lot of problems here, specifically around this, the subpoena, right? It's been 173 days since McHenry threatened to subpoena Gary Gensler for non-compliance with congressional oversight. Demand action here. And again, this is what we are talking about. There is no action at all. It's just all words. It's all talk. It's all this, that. And it's insane how we're at this point in time where Gary Gensler continues to abuse his power and also utilize the weapons at hand of the SECs to go after this nascent, this very early on industry and attack it from all fronts just for those pro-bankers to be extremely happy. And we know that Gary Gensler is working with them because Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren were also 100% confirmed and also filmed in public. And there's emails that also show that Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren have been working together. And in those emails, we have questions and answers that Elizabeth Warren handed to Gary Gensler for him to answer to make sure that her agenda is being pushed through Gary Gensler like a puppet that he is. When we really look at the SEC, they're not working for us. They're not working for the retail investor. They're working for the bankers. That's all they are. Outside of this, though, we have one group that has been pushing and pushing and pushing. And that is Empower US. Empower Oversight has been absolutely killing it. We have here from the president of Empower, the SEC has disclosed to Empower that the SEC OIG is in the final stages of an investigation into the cryptocurrency-related financial conflicts of interest Empower referred to the OIG in May of 2022. For example, when Division of Corporate Finance William Hinman came to the SEC from the law firm Simpson Thacher in 2017, he continued to receive millions in financial compensation. Thanks to the FOIA work from Empower, we know the SEC Ethics Office told him that because he had a continued financial interest in the firm's profitability while in government, he was required to recuse himself from all matters that would impact the firm. And again, we know that that was not the case. We know that Simpson Thacher is a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Its cryptocurrency Ether is a competitor with others like Bitcoin and Ripple Labs XRP, so Hinman clearly shouldn't have been helping guide the SEC's enforcement decisions on cryptocurrencies. Yet in June 14th of 2018, the speech that he did declaring Ether was not a security. He did not disclose his personal financial interest in Ether, and of course, Ether's value rose after Hinman's declaration. Did the SEC ethics inappropriately sign off? Well, guess what? The FOIAs revealed that Hinman consulted with Ethereum creator Vitalik Buterin during the speech drafting, as well as Joseph Lubin, whose company Consensus is another major promoter of Ether. We also know, thanks to Empower US's FOIAs, that Hinman was specifically told not to have any meetings with individuals from his old firm. He again disregarded this requirement and continued on. When Hinman departed the SEC in December of 2020, he returned to Simpson Thacher as a partner. That same month, the SEC sued Ripple, alleging XRP was an unregistered security. SEC Enforcement Division head Mark Berger left the SEC shortly thereafter to join Hinman at Simpson Thacher. It appears the new documentary, XRP Unleashed, from Fruition Films, focuses on these issues extensively. Johnny Deaton 1 uses Hinman's speech as an example of regulatory capture 101. And we also have Empower is ready to sue the SEC Gov if it doesn't begin producing by February 23rd the documents in Empower's latest FOIA. The American people deserve transparency. The silver lining is that now we know one reason for the stonewalling is that the OIG actually has an active inquiry, which is almost done. However, whether the OIG report thoroughly addresses all the issues we raised remains to be seen because we don't know the exact scope of the inquiry. The SEC's OIG needs to get his right, and help prevent similar conflicts of interest from undermining public faith in the SEC's work in the future. And I completely agree. But we also got a new update just recently on the 18th that said we gave the SEC a month. They didn't produce any documents. They didn't commit to when they would produce any documents. So now we filed suit. This is going to be one that everyone should watch for. And they continue to provide us with more and more insights on this. They are now suing the SEC because of its refusal to comply with the FOIA. And this is all regarding ETHgate. This is what we want to see. Actual motive, moves being made, actions being taken. This is why I fully support Empower and what they have been doing. I'm very excited about this because, again, we demand answers. Hopefully we get them. Do I have doubts? 100%. And I want to wrap this video up with playing you guys a clip that got posted by Riz XRP, and this just puts into perspective on how big of a failure Gary Gensler actually is and how broken the system actually is as well. Listen closely to this.
Chair Gensler, I have a lot of questions and a limited amount of time, so if you could keep your answers to either a yes or a no, that will allow us to get through as many as possible, sir. From your perspective, is it more difficult now for the digital asset industry to access financial products and services in the United States than it was, say, 2 years ago?
Sir, I'm not running one of those businesses. If they came into compliance, I think
reclaiming my time. The answer, sir, is yes. Do you think you and the SEC have had a role to play in that?
I think we have a role to protect the American investor and the capital markets and the
reclaiming my time, sir. You have played an obvious role in that. During your tenure at the SEC, how many rules has the SEC finalized that actually accommodate the existing regulatory framework and are specifically to the digital asset industry so the crypto market can come into compliance?
It's their rule books that are on the books for years, so we have not finalized any new rule specifically with regard to crypto. We've proposed some things in best execution. We've also...
Sir, reclaiming my time, the answer is 0. And how many enforcement actions has the SEC levied against digital asset companies during your tenure, sir?
I think it's probably 40 or 50.
The answer, sir, is about 55. My understanding is that the biggest crypto failure in history is probably FTX at $9 billion. Were you the chairman of the SEC when FTX collapsed?
Yes.
And how many times did you meet with FTX prior to their collapse?
I think my public record shows 2.
You met it with FTX at least twice. And arguably, the second biggest crypto failure in history was Terra Luna. Who was the chairman of the SEC when Terra Luna collapsed, sir?
We had brought...
You were, sir. Reclaiming my time, you were. There are 5 members on the commission. Do you believe your speeches and interviews are to serve as the official position of the SEC?
I can only speak for myself when I'm speaking.
Again, sir, in a statement on the SEC website, you are quoted saying, the Kraken staking as a service enforcement action should make clear to the marketplace that staking as a service providers must register. But again, you haven't provided any rules for how that can be done. I must remind you, your public statements are not regulations. It's not responsible to expect the American people to assume your statements are a substitute for rules. Do you agree with this statement regarding the digital asset industry? The SEC needs additional congressional authorities to prevent transactions, products, and platforms from falling between the regulatory cracks.
I think that it's a largely non-compliant field. And
sir, again, I asked you to comply with my questions, and I'm asking you if you agree with that quote. And I'm going to tell you, I'm quoting you from an August 3rd, 2021 article where you, and I believe you told Congressman Hill earlier that you need congressional authority to regulate stablecoins, and stablecoins happen to be a significant percentage of the crypto market. So the question is, when were you telling the truth? To Mr. Hill or to me? You've got to start answering these questions in a more transparent manner, sir. Does it concern you, by the way, that your approach to the digital asset industry is actually driving this industry out of the United States?
We're trying to drive it to compliance, and if they're not complying with the laws, then they shouldn't be offering their products.
Reclaiming my time. Madam Chair, I would like to enter into the record this Wall Street Journal article from April 14th, 2023, detailing China's ploy to open its banking system to crypto firms in an effort to seize an opportunity created by our hostile regulatory environment, which, Mr. Chair, you're a big part of.
Without objection.
Chair Gensler, FTX was domiciled abroad and so is Binance, yet American consumers still had access to both. You can't really think that pushing this industry abroad is going to protect American consumers when it hasn't several times in the past on your watch. You say the crypto market is rife with non-compliance. However, existing SEC rules make no sense for blockchain-based companies, and following them would actually kill these businesses. Your regulatory style lacks flexibility and nuance, and as a result, you've been an incompetent cop on the beat, doing nothing to protect everyday Americans and pushing American firms into the hands of the CCP. Your intention to work against SEC mission and put American investors in harm's way has been made very apparent, sir. It's been a year and a half since you've appeared before this committee. You need to answer to Congress about the issues that you've had with the SEC staff union, the work environment you've cultivated at the SEC that's led to hemorrhaging of senior staff, the intellectual inconsistency of your regulatory treatment towards Bitcoin spot ETFs, and your politicization of capital formation opportunities through your treatment of certain SPACs. And that's just to name a few. Thank you. I yield.
Gentleman from New
And again, these are all of the failures of Gary Gensler. Just Gary Gensler. We're not even talking about Jay Clayton. We're not even talking about Hinman. So how could this be a Gary Gensler problem when it seems as though this is a problem of the actual SEC itself? Because although, yes, Gary Gensler has been doing a terrible job, and I completely agree that Gary Gensler should be fired. He should be out of a position. The entire SEC needs to be completely out of this sector. They should have no hands-on. But also, the biggest issue that I actually see with all of this is zero protection of the retail sector and all protection of the bankers and the actual ones that are on the top of the food chain in Wall Street, the big players. They are all protected. It's just like when we had the 2008 financial crisis. Guess what? Middle class, retail, they got wiped out completely. But guess who got bailed out? Banks. This is the number one problem that we have with these agencies in the US. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if there's more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.